Gather round and listen as I recant the glorious charge of the Wolf Guard Terminators.
Anvil of War! Let's talk tactics!
Hey guys, thanks for watching Anvil of War Gaming. We hope you guys are enjoying our content. If you are, please hit that subscribe button. Let us know that you're enjoying our videos and we'll continue to make more. Without further ado, let's get into Let's Talk Tactics about the Wolf Guard Terminators. So, all the models that you're going to see today are actually painted by our fantastic sponsor, Brushfire Studios. Zach does a pristine job at painting all of these beautiful miniatures. And if you've seen some of his work, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, check out links to his Facebook page, and it's in the description, the video that you're watching right now. And you can also find it all over our social media presence. So with that being said, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Wolf Guard Terminators. We've got a weapon skill, ballistic skill of 3+, a movement of 5 inches, a strength of 4, a toughness of 4, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, leadership 8. They have a save of 2+, because they're wearing Terminator armor, and they also get the 5+ invulnerable that comes with that as well. Now, these guys, as far as equipment options, they come standard with a Power Fist and a Storm Bolter. The Storm Bolter and the Power Fist both can be subbed out for a variety of weapons. I should also mention that the pack leader for the unit also comes at +1 attack, and he also comes standard with a Power Sword and a Storm Bolter. Most of the times you're going to be subbing out all of these weapons, although they are really good. Storm Bolters are definitely nothing to scoff at. I think when it comes down to running Space Wolves, you're really going to want to tap into that melee potential, and we'll talk about that a little bit more further on in the video. But now when we're talking about equipment options that they can take, I mean, you have the plethora of melee weapons that are available to Space Wolf Terminators. You've got the Chain Fist, you've got Thunderhammer Storm Shield comboed if you want to give them that 3+ invulnerable save, and the ability to just smash tanks and knights and all kinds of great stuff like that. You have the ability to take the oh god, what do I want to call them? Wolf Claws. You have the ability to take Wolf Claws, which are souped up Lightning Claws. They're better than Lightning Claws in every other way. They get all of the same bonuses, but they're +1 strength, which is fantastic. Also, you have the ability to take things like Frost Axes. You have the ability to take combi weapons on all of your guys, which is a little bit heretical, but fantastic. If you really want to drop in a unit of Melta or Plasma guys just suicide squatting it in and doing some damage, you could do it that way too. But realistically, I think, like I said before, you're going to really tap into that melee, the melee options, because they're going to be where you're going to get the most damage output. So from there, I really want to talk about their stratagems. The stratagems that are available to this unit are fantastic now with Psychic Awakening, Saga of the Beast. They got, well, essentially 2, pending any FAQs, 2 specific stratagems that affect this unit, not necessarily alone, but directly affect this unit. So let's get into stratagems. Let's talk a little bit more about this. First off, from the base Space Wolf Codex, you've got a couple, I'm going to call them situational stratagems that you might pop. You might spend some command points on if you're in the right place at the right time. But ultimately, the Saga of the Beast ones are the better ones, in my opinion, just as far as what they're going to do for your unit. But so when we're talking about the lone stratagems from the specific Space Wolf Codex, we've got Laugh in the Face of Death, which is if they're affected by a negative leadership aura. So if you're fighting, Night Lords, or there's Chaos Spawn on the table, or anything that can really mess with your leadership. I think that Harkin World Eater guy has it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically anything that has that special ability of reducing a unit's leadership is really going to go well for these guys, because what it's going to end up doing is it actually gives them it actually gives them re-rolled failed hit rolls while they're in the aura effect. So it's pretty nasty when you stack it with things like the Wolf Claws where you're re-rolling wounds. But we'll get more into the potential of that weapon combo very, very shortly. So also you have stuff like Lone Wolf. So in the situation that you have just your Wolf Guard leader is the only one left on the table, pending morale checks, etc., and you have him alone, you can buff him up, make him a character, and he can turn into a bit of a melee monster, or more of a melee monster than he already was. So that's one command point and totally worth it. I love that stratagem. I try to get it off every game if I can. I even have specific models I like to sub in for in that situation, but it's a really, really good one. Also, you have Emperor's Executioners. Again, situational. If you're playing against Thousand Suns, you're in a tournament or something, and you go up against a Thousand Suns player. If you want to see any of your units take down Magnus, this is the stratagem to use. It's one command point, and essentially gives you exploding hits, auto hits, on a 4+. So basically, you roll your dice. If you roll a 4, 5, or 6, you're getting an additional hit no matter what, right off the bat. And with things that pump out a ton of attacks and things that have high strength value attacks like Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, Wolf Guard Terminators, or things like that, you're going to get a lot of damage on big baddies like Magnus or any other really durable kind of pain in the butt Thousand Sun units. Because ultimately, as Space Wolf players, we absolutely hate the Thousand Suns. You have to. It's got to be genetically in your, it's in your gene seed to hate them. So, yeah, moving on from there. I mean, those are really, in my opinion, the base stratagems from the base codex that are going to be effective for you. Going from there into the stratagems from Saga of the Beast. So we have Fury of the Champions, which is base. It's specifically for Wolf Guard Terminators only, and what it's going to do is it's kind of like Fury the First. It's basically their version of all the other Space Marine chapters version of the first company buffs. But what it's going to do is it's going to give them +1 to hit for the phase, and you can pop that in the shooting phase. Well, you can pop it in any phase, but you can pop it in the shooting phase, or you can pop it in the melee phase. So shooting phase if you really want to chug out a ton of bolter shots from storm bolters, and then and get that +1 to hit, now hitting on 2s, which is pretty awesome. Or you can do it in the melee phase and stack it with their innate ability, which is the +1 to hit if they're charged, if they charge, or if they heroically intervene. That's a Space Wolf specific special rule, and so they're going to be hitting on 2s normally. So if you get something like a Thunderhammer where now you're hitting on 2s but you're negating, now you're 3s, you're back up to 2s, you see where this is going. It's pretty strong, and it's pretty significant in the right situation. So again, one command point, totally worth it. The next one is going to be Countercharge. So Countercharge, one command point. It allows you to heroically intervene units that are within 6 inches of you, and you can also heroically intervene 6 inches. So you're able to kind of create a bubble when you drop down onto the table. They're Terminators. They do have the ability to deep strike in. So you're able to pop them on the table, and you're able to create a bubble, basically negating your opponents from moving around them, because if they get within 6 inches, they're going to get countercharged. Really great stratagem for many units, but also really effective for Wolf Guard Terminators. Now, there's also the Vicious Executioners one, which is, I want to say, pending FAQ, unless they specify that it's only for the specific Wolf Guard veteran squads, then our bubbles will be burst. But if that is not the case and they continue to allow us to use this, it does have the Wolf Guard keyword highlighted. So in my opinion, it's fair game. What it does is it allows you to, on an unmodified 6, on the roll to wound, you're doing a mortal wound, which is gross when you throw it in with a few little combos. I'm looking at running a bunch of Wolf Guard Terminators, maybe even a max squad, or throw in a couple Thunderhammer Storm Shields just to get that 3+ invuln going. But then you, what you're going to do is you can give them Wolf Claws. And what do Wolf Claws do? Well, they allow you to reroll to wound. So now you're hitting on 2s with the Wolf Claws as it is. Throw in some nearby characters. We'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But now all of a sudden you have the ability to have these claws absolutely shred through your opponents. And you're just fishing for those 6s. And if you roll those 6s, you're going to be doing those mortal wounds in addition to the damage that you're dealing. But in addition to that, you're also able to re-roll those to wound because of the Lightning Claw special rule, the Wolf Claw special rule, which is just awesome. I mean, you're going to end up, you're getting +1 attack for having a pair of them as it is. You're getting +1 attack from the Shock Assault special rule, which is also a rule that they have for Marines. So now all of a sudden they're getting 4 base attacks per model. So you can see where it starts to get a little crazy, especially if you have maybe a character nearby with a leadership or with a +1 attack aura, like the Wolfenstone or something like that. Now all of a sudden these guys are just chugging out attacks and fishing for mortal wounds, re-rolling, doing more mortal wounds, and it just gets silly and so great from there. So yeah, so that's pretty much that's the gist of it for stratagems. I do want to do an honorable mention to transhuman physiology, which is 1 to 3 on when your opponent's rolling to wound against you. It's on a 1 to 3. It automatically fails no matter what the strength of the weapon is. That's a really good. That's a really good stratagem. It's 2 command points. You're kind of reduced to not very many command points when you're playing Space Wolves, just because of the way, you can't take a really cheap troop option. Scouts are an elite option, so you're going to end up with a decent amount of command points, but you're not going to end up with a crazy amount of them. So you're going to have to pick and choose where you use your stratagems, and I don't think transhuman physiology is best used on them. I'd probably save it for like a big blob of wolfen or something like that. These guys are pretty durable as it is. So in addition to the stratagems, they also have some base special rules. We talked about the Shock Assault, so the ability to get +1 attack if they charge, if they're charged, or if they heroically intervene, which pairs really well with their base Space Wolf rules, which is the Hunter's Unleashed, and the ability to get +1 to hit if they charge, if they're charged, or if they heroically intervene. In addition to this, you also have now from Saga of the Beast, Savage Fury, which is a great rule in the sense that it's going to create so many more hits for you. The downside of it is it has to be done when you're in the Assault Doctrine, and the Assault Doctrine is not going to be taking place until turn 3. If you're playing Space Wolves and you haven't switched into the Assault Doctrine by turn 3, like at turn 3, then the game's probably not going too well for you, or dare I say it, you might be playing Space Wolves wrong. They are meant to be in combat. Their units are sort of geared towards combat. Their special rules are geared towards combat. Why are your units not in combat? So if you get to the 3rd turn and you've got like a unit, maybe you have that big blob of Wolf Guard Terminators and they've stuck around, you've only got maybe half of them left, but it doesn't matter because now you're compensating for the half that you're missing, because your 6s are now exploding into additional hits. This is really strong when you pair it off with certain synergies, and yeah, they're auto hits, which is great because you don't have to re-roll those to hit as well. So not that you would really worry about it because you're probably getting +1 anyways, but hey, you never know. Now we're talking about synergies. So when we're talking about the characters that you want to take with these and the units that kind of complement them, a wolf or a Wolf Guard Battle Leader is a good option. You're getting the reroll 1s to wound. Obviously, a Wolf Lord reroll 1s in melee to hit is melee and shooting, to hit is great. Those 2 auras are fantastic, and you're probably going to want to throw those characters in Terminator armor potentially also, unless they're riding like a Thunderwolf. yeah, so just to get them up the table quicker. So if you had a couple Terminator armor wearing characters that are jumping up the table with a big blob of Terminators, it can get really, really nasty for your opponent. They're going to really have to think about what they're going to do and what they're going to focus on. So either a really great distraction, although pretty point hefty, but still a good distraction. Yeah, just getting those auras around those that unit. So now, if you are going the direction of taking a Wolf Guard, battle leader with your Wolf Guard Terminators, I would I'm going to say definitely take our Jack Rockfist. He is a beat stick. He also has the Kingsguard, I think it's Champions the Kingsguard ability, which is basically it gives him the ability to reroll against characters, but it also gives the Wolf Guard Terminators, Wolf Guard specific units around him, +1 to their attacks. So it's going to affect Wolf Guard Terminators because they have the keyword, and they're going to get +1 attack, which is pretty great, especially when you pair it with, say, another Wolf Lord or something nearby with Wolfenstone or something like that, giving another attack. You can see where this starts to get out of hand real quickly. He also gives the innate ability to reroll your wounds, ones to wound, just like a normal battle leader, but where he really shines is being able to Thor hammer Mjolnir at his opponents and throw a hammer across the table and, maybe not across the table, I think it's only like an 8-inch range or 12-inch range. Anyways, it's still really good, and yeah, he's a great little buffing character, so worth the contemplation. Now we also have the Litanies for the Wolf Priest. So if you are running a Wolf Priest in your army, the downside is throwing one in Terminator armor is never, I'm going to say, a viable or a very smart option. It's cool, and it's thematic. If that's what you're going for, then all the power to you. But as far as a strategic option, I don't think it is a good option, because you can't be chanting the turn that your units come down. And with the Wolf Priest, you really want to be getting those bonuses to your units when they come down on the tabletop, especially if you're running something like the Litany of Hate, or the Canticle of Hate. What that's going to do is it actually gives +2 to your charge rolls. If you have a unit nearby or a character that's giving an aura for rerolls for charges, now all of a sudden you're needing a 7, which is an average roll on 2 dice, to get your charges off. So no more failing charges or very low chance of doing it, because rolling a 7 with 2 attempts is a lot more likely. You could even roll, if you rolled a 5 and a 1 and you only got that 6, spend a command point, reroll that 1, get that 2 or more, and get those guys in and doing the damage that they can do. That being said, that litany also gives them the ability to pile and consolidate +3 inches. So they're going to be able to get further stuck in once you activate them and you move them into combat, because they're going 6 inches now, as long as they're within 6 inches of the Wolf Priest. So my recommendation, run a Wolf Priest with a jump pack. Run him up with, I don't know, Thunderwolf Cavalry or something else that's speeding up the table, or just hide him from terrain to terrain until you get them in the right position so that they can drop down and charge, and use that bonus, because that is huge, because them getting a guaranteed charge off the turn that they drop down, or nearly guaranteed charge off, it's going to do a lot of damage to your opponent, and it's going to make them really, really have to think about the rest of the game. Also, honorable mentions for the Wolf Priest. I mean, all of his chants are amazing, and they're all going to be great. Exhortation of Rage, exploding 6s, so you're getting those exploding unmodified 6s to hit, just like you're getting from your other source from your combat doctrines. So you can see where this is starting to stack up, because I mean, if you had both of those triggering at the same time, it could be really, really strong. The Tale of the Wolf King is also a great litany. It's going to give you +1 to wound against vehicles or monsters for a Space Wolf unit. So if you want to see some Wolf Guard Terminators rocking Wolf Claws Shredded Knight, this is where it's going to come from, because you're going to be popping, you know, if you have that litany going, and then you also are popping the you're in the third turn, you're getting the additional exploding hits, and then you're also throwing on top of that the stratagems that are just going to complement it and maybe do those mortal wounds on 6s. Now all of a sudden you're able to pump a whole bunch of damage into a knight with a unit that was probably more geared towards killing elite infantry and infantry units. So pretty cool options. Lots of great combos there with that character. Also, you know, Rune Priest, dropping them down. Having a Rune Priest nearby is never a bad idea. There's some stratagems from this base Space Wolf Codex that also allow you to buff them from having or with having a Rune Priest nearby. An example would be giving them that -1 to hit. I can't remember the name of the stratagem off the top of my head, but the one where if you cast a spell, you can also create like a storm cloud around all of your fellow Space Wolf units, and all of a sudden this unit is now harder to hit on top of all the other crazy defensive abilities it has. All of a sudden you have like this really strong unit and combo that's it's really going to work for you. So as far as transports are concerned, I mean, you could think about a Land Raider as an option. I mean, it is the greatest tank in the game, despite what other people say. You could go with Storm Wolf and have a whole squad of them in a flyer jump up the table and jump out the next turn, and just pray that thing survives a turn. Or, I mean, even if it blows up, just don't roll ones and hope your guys live. But there's some other options. I mean, getting them, they have the innate ability to deep strike in. They have the ability to get within 9 inches of your opponent anyways. So I wouldn't really squander that. I wouldn't really use things like the stratagem to have them show up from the board edge. Cunning of the Wolf, I wouldn't use that, because what's the point of doing that when you already have the ability to drop in 9 inches away from your enemy anywhere on the table, and preferably close to that Rune Priest, who's going to give you the ability to Wolf Priest, who's going to give you the ability to get +2 your charges. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Great unit. I like to mix them up a little bit. I like to throw a couple Storm Shields and Thunderhammers in the unit, and then a bunch of Claws. Been doing that for a little while now, and having some pretty good success with it, with the blobs of Claws just shredding infantry and kind of like elite stuff. But then the Thunderhammers are there to deal the damage against the big stuff and absorb the wounds on their 3+ invuln on their shields, which everyone loves, because, you know, 3+ invulnerables are not broken at all. They're great, and Space Wolves have a lot of them. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you again for watching. Stay tuned for more Space Wolf content and more Saga of the Beast related content and updates to some awesome stratagems that we just got. Thanks, guys.
Sponsored by
By Grimna's Beard. Hit that subscribe button, or else you'll miss all of our Space Wolf content. Thanks, guys. Bye.